9 o'clock. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our hearings. We've got a big couple of days to get through all our hearings, so looking forward to working with colleagues and everyone here over the next few days. We've got Philip Redmond's online, so morning, Philip. Philip's head tested for COVID, so he's keeping us all safe and protected, and hopefully he's on the mend. So firstly this morning we've got a submission from Kaiapoi District Historical Society, so I see Owen and Jean are here. Just if you could turn the microphone on. Sorry, Sally, I'm sorry, it's head of Jean down there. I should have looked at my. I know who Sally is well. Hello, sorry, Sally. The process this morning is up to 10 minutes, and then there will be a bell at 8 minutes to let you know there's 2 minutes there. If you could leave some time for questions, and that would be appreciated because the total slot's up to 10. So good morning and welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Owen Cassidy, a committee member for the Kaiapoi District Historic Society Incorporated. Thank you for the opportunity to submit this morning.
Could you put the, that mic doesn't seem to be, yeah, that's a bit better, thank you.
The Kaiapoi Museum is an important part of our community. It is unfortunate we do not have accurate count of the visitors we have. The number of visitors have increased since the Caravan Association Park has opened, and there are people coming in each day. We have volunteers in attendance 6 days a week, putting in approximately 60 man-hours per week. In the past 12 months, we've had 10 groups visit, totalling approximately 240 people. We have submitted on having a platform lift installed to enable members to take large and heavy items to our upstairs storage area. Access to the storage area is not every day and is dependent on research requests and what duties are being performed by the volunteers. No member of the public is permitted in the storage area, so when we have to research items, we will bring them down if required. When items required cleaning, they are taken down to the dirty room so as not to contaminate any other artefacts in storage. A great number of our items require 2 hands to carry, thus making it unsafe when we go up and down the stairs. This has been done for the time that we have been in the building and is not our ideal, as it does not comply with our health and safety obligations. This has led to the investigation of a device to transport these large and heavy items up to the storage area. We see that this as a necessity to comply with the health and safety, and would like the Council to place some importance on our submission. As well as the lifting device, we are nearing the end of our storage capacity. This means we have to stop accepting items or start disposing of some items, which we do not wish to do either. Most of our items are of older vintage, and we are aware of our obligations to accept items from the 1950s onwards. This enables us to change displays and keep the museum an interesting place to visit. To achieve this, we will require extra storage space. As the area behind the museum has been set aside for expansion, we would like to see this project move forward. In doing so, would give the option of having a service lift installed at the time. We have previously submitted to the long-term plan for the expansion of the museum and have done so again. If we can't see anything happening in the foreseeable future, we'll have to look at some other form of storage. This may mean having a container or transportable building in the area behind the museum. We do not consider this the best option, but we can't put things on hold, otherwise the museum will lose its appeal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Did you want to add anything, Sally?
No.
Thank you. Just on the, thank you for your submission. It was very clear as well. And have you got any obtained any pricing for? It was indicated that you've been looking at options, or has that been something you've been working through staff on around accessing the storage room at the top?
The platform lift we have looked at, we talked to several companies. A lot of them have stopped making them, and one company, Vesna, is still supplying them. The device is made in Austria, prefabricated there and bought and installed out here. The indicative cost we've got, or the quote we had, was 45,000 plus GST on it installed. Okay. On top of that, there is one wall there that has to be looked at, because normally they install these platform lifts on a solid wall, concrete wall or block wall. Okay. The wall that it's got to be attached to is a wooden wall, so it's got to have an engineer's report on it to comply with the loading. So that wall may have to be altered with internal steel framing to support it.
Thank you.
At this stage, that is the best option we've come up with. We rung and talked to people about chair lifts. Can they be adapted to what we want to do to help transport these things? And as it says, well, because everything's rated, it's got to comply. Once you start playing around with them and alter them, that goes out of the scope of what it's designed for.
Thank you. I've got questions from Deputy Mayor Neville and Councillor. Yeah, I'm sorry, Blakey, sorry. Haven't had enough caffeine this morning. Thank you, Neville.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Thanks for your submission. You're talking about more storage. How many square metres are you looking for at the moment? And with that, how long do you expect those square metres to last? Given that museums never stop accepting and will never stop accepting stuff, how long do you accept? What are you proposing here? What's the?
It's a very difficult one. There was, if for instance we went to a 20-foot container outside type thing, a year we may fill it. It depends on what comes in. Every now and then we'll have a rush of local people coming in. You know, we get a deceased estate and people come in and say, we've got all this, would you like it? Sometimes we turn around and say, no, sorry, we've got some of those items, and we turn around and say, oh my word, yes, we will have it. So it's a very hard one to say of how quick we'd fill up the storage.
Thank you. Councillor Blakey?
Thanks. A while back we talked about the bridge across from this level. Is that not an option?
It would be a very good option, but a very expensive one.
More than your lifts?
Yes, because to take the air bridge across for us to get in, would have to go across above our natural history room, which has not the roof, so it would have to be a mezzanine floors extended out there. It would be a lovely option because that would give us the extra storage above it, and that would be a very good option.
Was that ever priced?
No. We had an engineer come in and look at it, and he said that those walls, all fire-rated walls, once we start altering the walls, again, it's going to get quite expensive. But it would be a very good option.
Did you have a question, Councillor Cairns?
No.
Thank you. Thank you both for your submission, very clear what you're looking for, and we just appreciate everything the museum does here. I was hearing yesterday some people's first time they'd actually been in there and just commenting how great it is. Didn't know it was there and lived in the district for some time, so there we are. I think it's fantastic, so thank you for what you do. We appreciate it, and we will be back in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. May I have our next submitter, which is Heather Warwick. Welcome, Heather. Heather, you've got Thank you. I think you have to go the other way. Sorry. Yes. You've got up to 10 minutes, Heather, and there'll be a ballot 8. Just for staff today, if you could just indicate when we get to 10, don't ring the bell, be my preferred way. So thank you, Heather, and we look forward to hearing your submission.
Thank you, Mayor Dan. It's my pleasure to be here under my own steam today, not of that of Enterprise North Canterbury. I am one and the same almost, aren't I? I'm a resident of Mandeville North and in Cullen Avenue, and we moved there 6 years ago, my husband and I. And interestingly, just when we moved there, the Mandeville pub opened, and the platform bar, all of the shops, the supermarket. It's absolutely been amazing to see the growth and the development of that area. And they're all very well patronised. But I'm actually here today about the curbside collection. So 6 years ago, we actually were given the offer to tick whether we wanted the collection bins curbside, and it was green, and it was yellow, and it was red. So I ticked all three. And then as they were rolling it out, they pulled back on the green bin option. So I inquired about it probably 6 months ago, and I said to council, and said, is there a likelihood that we're actually going to ever get a green organics bin in Mandeville? And they said not in the short term, and that would be part of a bigger strategy. And that if I maybe made a submission to the LTP, the right channels then, and get some support. So it's not just from me, I'm here representing 39 other residents in my street. I didn't have time to lobby all of Mandeville or Hoka in that regard. But my point is today, I'd like the council to consider instating a green organics bin. We already have curbside collection, so they already know the numbers of bins being collected, red and yellow, and everybody has red and yellow bins because I go up and down the street every Thursday when they're out and know that we've all checked that box. So I was actually overwhelmed by the response. In 1 week, I just threw something in their mailboxes. I didn't have time to go door to door, and it looked a bit odd anyway. And already had 39 responses out of about 80 houses. So overwhelming, I thought, and I could have followed that up. So, people could say, well, you could, take your rubbish to the refuse station, which we do when it's flax and things like that. But I'm talking weeds and cuttings and leaves this time of year. And I know I could fill a green bin every week if I had that opportunity. In the meantime, I'm putting it in a red bin, which is costly and the wrong thing to do, but it's the only option I have. And I've talked to others, and they said they're doing the same thing. So I think if you talk to your rubbish collectors, they'd be finding those red bins, not doing the right thing. And I think we've all got a conscience about that. So I think ultimately that would be at more cost to the council as well. So I've been told that if there was enough uptake, it should be cost neutral to the council. But that I think would be a win-win for everybody. So I'd just like the council to consider whether or not they'd investigate that for the residents of Mandeville North, and I would like to include a Hoka in that. And just since I wrote this submission, I've also been noticed and been told that there are green organic bins in Cust. Well, I would have thought Cust is a lot smaller than Mandeville, so there's some, no equity in that. And I think it's just the fact that 6 years this hasn't been presented to council. We've moved on, and somebody has to step up and say this is us doing the right thing. And you've seen yourselves how much it's grown. So it's not just doing it for convenience. It's as residents and ratepayers, we'd like to be doing the right thing and paying for that. So that's all I'm asking for your consideration today. And thank you for your time.
Well, Heather, thank you for yours. Questions of colleagues? I've got Councillor Williams and Councillor Fulton. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Heather, for your submission. I counted, I think, 3 or 4 times the right thing to do all the time. Do you realise that when you put your clippings and stuff in the red bin,
Yeah.
it goes to Cape Valley, and they actually need some greens there to.
So what's your question, Councillor Williams?
The question is, I'm still coming to it.
Thank you.
Do you know that putting those stuff into the red bins is actually good for the environment by going to Cape Valley with what they produce in Cape Valley? Or
I'm not an expert on that, Paul, but what I would say is I could fill a red bin over 3 times. So what I'm putting in there is only the bare, what I can only fill it with, and that's only once every 2 weeks. I'm fortunate that I have a brother that lives on 10 acres in Fernside, so I'm able to take it to the burn pile when it's burnable season, which it hasn't been recently. So we've got trailer loads of cuttings and things right now sitting in our backyard.
Thank you. I'm just going to allow one question. Can we come to Councillor Fulton, because I've got another councillor that wants a question. Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Heather, for the presentation. Just the geography of it, I'm actually confess I'm not actually that familiar with where Mandeville North is. I don't actually strictly, the whole area is probably called Mandeville North, but how would you define it?
I thought I was in Swannanoa actually, because my address is RD5, Rangiora, Swannanoa. It was actually Mayor David Ayres that told me I was in Mandeville North. He put me right, and because I just moved there, and I have a feeling it's the Wards Road, Cullen Avenue, and the 2 mill fields. And then, of course, on the left, because when you turn right at the Mandeville shops, you go down Bradley's Road, and that's Wards Road into there.
I'd be tricky. I don't know about understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it's your immediate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Fulton.
Thank you.
I've got Councillor Redmond online.
Oh, there he is.
Thank you for your submission, Heather. I was just intrigued how an extra bin could be cost neutral. Are you able to elaborate?
I'm of the understanding if you got a significant uptake of the green bin, it would be cost neutral, not 1 or 2. And we've got 39 already, let alone if there were more lobbied. And I guess that if the council could, and this was only just asking to have the option of a green bin, that's not forcing it to make a decision. And if 50% on my street wanted it, then I'm really, I guess, asking the council if they could go out to those residents and see if there is an uptake, and if there is, then surely it would be, that's my assumption, it would be cost neutral to the council.
Look, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Heather, for your time. Appreciate it's clear what you're asking us for, and thank you for doing some research on it as well.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
I'm not sure if you need all of the signed petitions as evidence. I've got those.
If you'd like to table them, Simon, one of our staff, can do that for
I
you.
haven't taken copies, but I'll trust them with you, Simon.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
very
Heather.
much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. We next have the Ayrton Hall Association. Donald Fuchs. Hi, Donald. Please come to the table. So we've received a copy of the submission, and we'd invite you to speak to it up to 10 minutes. And you might have heard before, staff will give a little indication when you've got to 8. If you could leave some room for questions, that would be great. Thank you, Donald.
Hi, thanks for that. I'm submitting on behalf of the Ayrton Hall Association Incorporated. So thanks for the opportunity to speak to the long-term plan. I've been involved with the Ayrton Halls since the early 70s, when I first moved to my property in the South Eyre Road. The Waimakariri district has a whole range of facilities. There's large venues like the Main Power Stadium, our swimming pools, but there's also small local halls, and these contribute to the well-being of our community. Ayrton Hall, and some people confuse it with the West Ayrton Hall. The Ayrton Hall is on the corner of Mandeville Road and South Eyre Road. It dates back to 1905. So it's been there quite a long time, and it's been well supported by the Ayrton community, especially the families that have lived there since the late 1800s. The Cherries, the Beals, the Martins, the Giles, there are others, but the descendants of those original families still live in the community, and they still help with the hall. Our hall depends on volunteers for raising money and for its maintenance. In the last 3 decades, one neighbour in particular, Les Cherry, who some of you know, has spent a lot of time renovating the kitchen, the toilet facilities. Just in the last 2 weeks, he upgraded their water supply. And he paid for it himself. So our hall depends on the neighbours to help it. Another of the neighbours 2 months ago upgraded the electricity switchboard and had all the fuses replaced with the more modern circuit breakers and paid for it. So we're doing our best to actually help ourselves. We do get help. The Rangiora Nursery gave us $500 last year as a donation. The Mandeville Weighbridge gave us $1,000 this year. So that's very, very useful. But we are facing a financial crisis. In my written submission, I point out the cost of being connected to electricity. In August 2021, that cost us $1.44 a day to be connected. It now costs us $5.79 a day. And once you add GST, that means it's gone up to $6.66 a day just to be connected. That's $200 a month to be connected. So a couple of months, or earlier this year, we had a well-attended meeting to discuss the issue. And I'd like to thank Councillor Nikki Mealings for attending that meeting. And we discussed our options. Increasing the hall's patronage was one of the options, of course, to make sure it's used more. The use of the hall fell away just after the pandemic. We lost one of our main users, that was the Papanui Cycling Club. That club's just about folded, largely as a cause of the pandemic. But we've been working hard on increasing the patronage. Last night I was down at the indoor bowls. On Monday I went and saw the Sports for Tiny Tots. And these are the kiddies. I was at the session for the under 3-year-olds, having a great time down at the hall with the young mothers in the district. And that runs every Monday and Tuesday morning. We had a very successful concert, 120 attendees for Ladies Sing the Blues, organised by Nigel Cook, one of the Kaiapoi stalwarts of the arts here. And he's also organising an arts weekend at the hall later this year. Of course, it's available for birthdays. I celebrated my 70th there this time last year, and it's a great venue for that. But we do need some help. We did look at other options like solar power, generators. Each of those options has fishhooks. The preferred option from the meeting was to ask if the council would consider increasing the yearly grant to cover the rates and the cost of being connected to the electricity grid. And of course, our community will raise the money to pay for the electricity used, the other costs, and to do the improvements that we'd like to do, especially the front entrance. I'd like to think that would be an excellent example of the elected council and our local Ayrton community working together to ensure that the Ayrton Hall is fit for purpose and kept in existence, basically for my grandchildren. but for the continuing generations. It's been there since 1905. We'd like to make sure it continues. Thanks for listening. I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thanks for your submission, very clear. Questions of Councillor Ward?
Thank you for your submission, and well done to the community. I remember years ago working in that hall and having to get the water pumped by hand outside.
Thank you, Joe.
Oh, it's all good now, Councillor Ward.
My question is, have you been to the Oxford Community Board to ask for a grant? You know you can apply for quite a bit from them.
Yes, thanks for that. It is something which I'm supposed to be doing. That's just a short-term fix, and I'd like to see the hall put on a firmer footing. Because quite honestly, our budget doesn't run to spending $200 a month just to be connected on electricity. I was the Secretary-Treasurer of the hall back in the 80s and early 90s, and I've ended up doing the job again. I was overseas for some time, and I was quite shocked at how the finances of the hall have suffered since this massive escalation of the electricity price. So yes, there are grants available. We're also looking at the Mandeville supermarket for a grant. We're trying to get the various grants, but I'm looking for a long-term future, and that's what I'm asking the council to consider, because I think these halls are important for the small communities.
Yes.
And it does have a big history. In the 70s, every time we needed money, we just had another dance and ran a bar. But, you know, those days are finished.
Thank you. Councillor Fulton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarity, those who might not know, what's the reason behind the escalation in that charge? I understand that you're on a different rate now. Is that right? What is that?
Our hall is quite correctly treated as non-residential. I am aware there are other halls, by quirk of fate, don't have that. Their ICPs aren't non-residential, but we're correctly non-residential. And the electricity companies have chosen to increase their rate. Main Power increases its rate every year in April 1. So I'm expecting another addition to our rate now, even though we're on a fixed charge with Genesis. They're allowed to pass on the Main Power increase to non-residential. So this is just what is happening, Councillor Fulton, with electricity charges. We're non-residential.
Thank you. Is there any further questions? Well, look, thank you, Donald, for your very clear submission. Thank you for also letting us know around Mr. Cherry. I've actually taken note of his name just to check whether we've given him a community award, because it sounds like he's someone very deserving of one if we haven't. So we'll look into that. But thank you for letting us know. Okay. And we'll be back in touch.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Cheers. All right. Our next submitter is the William Sefton Community Board, and I see we've got Shona and Rhonda with us. Mark's name was present. Is he not joining us today?
No, he got busy.
Here's a busy chap. Look, thank you for your submission, Shona. We've got up to 10 minutes allowed for the submission. Staff will let you know when you've got to 8. If you could leave a bit of room for questions, that would be appreciated. Welcome both to our meeting.
Thank you. And good morning, given it is New Zealand Sign Language Week.
Thank you.
Right, just going through the thing. I'll take the submission as read. The extension of the Trevor Inch Library. Interestingly, that was one that really gendered very little discussion in terms of just do it, which I don't know whether it was. I don't think it was surprising. There will never be a right time. There will always be other projects, and the costs are just going up. So the library it's so well used by a variety of people, and I urge you to actually go in there at different times. See who's using it, see how people are using it. It's actually quite amazing, and along with the civic building as well. I can tell you, people say, oh, books, books, Library isn't just about books, but even if it was, I can tell you I volunteered at the Pegasus Community Centre on Saturday morning. We had 63 people through in 2 hours. And I think all except 2 of those were using the book cave. We're getting books out, things like that. That's pretty amazing in 2 hours in a community. So for those that say that, books, nah, don't need those. But go and see how the library's actually being used. Picking up the Rangiora Eastern Link Road, these roads are important for the whole district. They all have an impact on each other. They're right across the district. We know that with State Highway 1. So but co-funding is needed. So the other issues were around the town centres. We found it very disappointing to see that funds have been set aside for only Rangiora and Kaiapoi town centres. The Ravenswood Central development is really lifting the retail expenditure for our area, and this is only going to grow as the businesses that are opening and are planned. Ravenswood is in the absolutely unique position in this district that it is so visible and so accessible from State Highway 1. So there needs to be some funding made available for this area, and you'll see in the thing that the table that was actually from the retail expenditure in the district and the increase that is showing in Ravenswood compared to the other areas as well, and that's just going to keep happening. So the projects, the landscaping budgets, this is an interesting one. There is a cost neutral part to this. You like cost neutral, but that is literally that the distribution of the funding, there's something a wee bit skew with it, shall we say. It doesn't seem to relate to anything, population or anything. So we would like this reviewed to see a better equitable split across the 4 community boards. But then the other thing is that our area has suffered from funding that is linked to population. Being such a high growth area, the funding is often, it's just about always based on really old, outdated figures, and our area misses out. We've also been trying to build new communities. We've had Pegasus, we've had Ravenswood. They're both, Pegasus is a town. You can't forget that, a new town. We've had to build that, and that takes money. Our landscaping budget for the last year was $13,680. You sit on community boards, you know how much it costs to install a seat. It doesn't go very far. And yet our board has done some pretty amazing things with our landscaping budget. The Waikuku Beach sign, which I think is commonly known as one of the best around. The contribution towards the Wood End War Memorial. We've also, a lot of native planting, seats, tables, things like that. So we have stretched our budget well and truly, but it just can't stretch anymore. So the Sefton Hall, please remember that this is a community public hall that is actually going to replace a council facility, the pavilion in the Sefton domain. We raised last year that the septic system was perhaps not going to go the distance, and that has proven to be the case. There are currently portaloos there as the toilets have now been closed. So what the board would like is to actually see a septic system that would be able to cater for the hall as well as the pavilion. It seems rather pointless to do it as part. Community facilities. You know, this is one you'll see in our submission. This board is really big on community facilities. You know, we point out that the council service levels recommend the provision of a community library once the population reaches 10,000. The RSL report predicted that in our area, and just in the Wood End Pegasus area, to be in 2040. 10,000 in 2040. Okay, the evidence shows that Wood End and Pegasus is actually over 9,000 now. So something there. You add in Waikuku, and it's well over 10,000. But the other thing is the community facility charges. We do value our community facilities, and those increases, particularly in the Wood End and Pegasus, are just too large. And people just don't know they're going up until 1st of July when it gets released what the charges are going to be. They don't read the big document. And it can come as a pretty unpleasant surprise. We need these community facilities to be used. They are well used, and we want that to continue. But to have a big fee increase is... Anything you'd like to add there?
I could say a lot about that, but
Yeah, no, you could.
I get another turn on Friday, so I'll save myself for then. But I will highlight again the lack of a library in the Wood End Pegasus area only makes these 30 to 50% fee increases more painful, because our residents don't have the opportunity to have all the wonderful things that are offered in the Rangi or Kaiapoi libraries. Yes, they could drive there, but with a population over 10,000, because I do include Waikuku as a user, it's a great lack. Putting the fees up by 30 to 50% in the Wood End Pegasus facilities is just going to punish the people who need those facilities the most. It's not the commercial fees that are going up, it's the community level fees. So you're hurting the people who really, really need those facilities. The flow-on effect is that the people who are running classes and groups there put their charges up, and immediately you've got people dropping off because it might only be a $5 class, but they can't afford it anymore because it's gone up to $6. So, it's quite important, I think, that we be realistic about those fee increases, and 30 to 50% is not realistic.
Okay, with the issues that we've raised, I'd like to point out...
Just you're at 8 minutes.
Yeah,
there.
the board is... All except 2 of the issues that we have raised in our submission have been raised previously. Okay, we're not coming asking for new stuff. We keep raising it and raising it and raising it. If we had to pick one priority, it would be the shared path between the north end of Wood End and to connect with the path out of Ravenswood. There's 300 metres, and it's all in the 50k area. Ravenswood Developments have built their part of the path out to State Highway 1, put a fence across it, put big chevron signs to say you can't go that way. It's safety. It's just, it should have been done. It should have been done by council when Ravenswood Central was developed. We shouldn't be waiting for this now. It's just unbelievable. And we can't wait for co-funding. It has to happen. Pegasus service charge. Again, that's been raised previously. So I had some lovely photos. I had a great presentation because I thought photos say so much more. But unfortunately, I was told that I could do it, but obviously I can't, so can't do it, sorry. Across the district, you go to any new subdivision. When you're driving around, have a look. There are street trees for Africa. It is no different than in Pegasus. Why has Pegasus been singled out for a service that's charged for street trees? It is not transparent. Most Pegasus residents have no idea what it's there for. There is no accountability about how the money is spent or where the money's going. We get no more maintenance than anywhere else that I can see. It has to go, and we raised that last year. Unfortunately, one was the surf's life saving. I'll actually email it to governance to send around. We have got some figures on people at Pegasus Beach for the remainder of January after the paid surf lifesaving patrols end, which is actually quite telling information. So Gladstone Park drainage, that was last year as well. We were also told last year that staff will be in touch to provide the board and rugby representatives on timelines for continued scoping works and a long-term solution. That hasn't happened. Waikuku Beach toilets.
You are at 10 minutes, Shona.
Okay.
I'm happy to give you a couple of extra minutes.
Okay. Waikuku Beach.
We're a bit ahead of time. Yep.
Waikuku Beach toilets. I had some great pictures of the Waikuku Beach toilets because most of you may not have seen them. They just don't meet levels of service. This is a destination, and they're not suited for a coastal environment. We're spending money putting in a viewing platform that's going to be accessible, and we have 2 toilets at a really busy beach. They're not due for replacement until, 2051, in that decade, so 2051 to 2061. Yeah. So and that's actually really about the main highlights. Anything else you can think of, Rhonda?
No, you've covered it well, thank you. Is Fiona able to see? She's got these.
Yeah, I was going to just say, I wasn't aware you weren't able to around the there is difficulties with this room with the presentations.
That's why I asked.
Yeah. So if we could get a copy of those, if they could be sent to governance, make sure elected members do see those, because we'd like to see the work you've put into it. That's very helpful for us. Okay. I'm happy to allow a couple of questions. Councillor Keynes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Shona and Rhonda. In terms of the walkway from Wood End through to Ravenswood, what are the young people, because I'm assuming McDonald's is the draw card, how do the students or the young people get from Wood End to Ravenswood now? Are they walking on the main road? What are they doing?
The fence has been erected, but it's been sort of levered down a bit, so people are using the path that isn't, but they still have to walk along State Highway 1. We also have St Barnabas Church thing. That is a key community meeting point. That is used for the Friday food bank. It is used for youth group. It is used for mums and bubs, community meetings, and church services. But you can't get to it safely except in your car. Can't get to it by bus, you can't get to it by cycling or walking. You have to take your car.
Deputy Mayor Atkinson.
Well, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a general question I'm probably going to ask more than one person. Around community facilities, so suggesting that, well, not suggesting, it's already added into the budgets later on, the community buildings, you want them in there, and then you're also suggesting that we have less costs to pay for them when people want to hire them. So we want to lift the ratepayers' costs both ways, as opposed to one or the other, or one helping the other, if you like. I'm just interested in your view on that, because certainly not a message from ratepayers I'm getting about when they're talking about lower costs.
Part of the problem is that it's a big increase in one go. It should have been spread.
Okay,
thank you. Look, Shona and Rhonda, thank you for your time. It's a very comprehensive submission, as it always is, from Wood End Sefton Community Board. Appreciate if you could get the presentation through.
I will do that.
Make sure that gets through to colleagues. And you mentioned the table you're also going to supply. So thank you both for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just...
Time to learn some sign language. Better be able to do it by tomorrow.
We now have Kaiapoi Food Forest, so Gordon.
Kia ora folks, my name's Gordon Hamblin. I'm presenting here on behalf of the Kaiapoi Food Forest, of which I'm the chairperson. And last night I got very organised and decided I'd go very modern, put all my notes on my cell phone and just have that sitting here, and I've left it at home. So hopefully I remember what I wrote down in my brilliance yesterday. I think the main thing I want to, main idea I'd like you to take away is this idea of getting triple value for your money. Many submitters here, I think, are asking for more money. I'm going to suggest how you can make better use of the money you're going to spend anyway. So triple value for money, because whenever you plant a tree, you're getting the amenity value. I'm speaking here more directly to the natural environment strategy. You're getting a carbon sink, and if you plant an edible tree, you're getting increased food security. Triple value for your money. So I'm going to look at those three things: carbon sinks, food security, amenity value. Despite all these wonderful things like these buildings and the technology of electricity and everything, our life here depends on the top 6 inches, 150 millimetre of soil and a good, comfortable, predictable climate. Our climate, we're feeling the effects of it's changing because of an increased level of CO2. Everything that has chlorophyll sucks CO2 out of the air. Everything that has chlorophyll that also has wood is storing CO2. It's a carbon sink. So your natural environment strategy includes planting a lot of things with chlorophyll and with wood. So that's one box ticked, carbon sink. If you want to tick the next box for triple value for your money, you're looking at food security. There seems to be an increase in food insecurity. Something to do with our social system, our economic system, I don't know. I'm more about finding solutions than delving into the causes. Local food banks here in Waimakariri and all around the country are reporting a significant increase in demand for their services because of a significant increase in food insecurity. So every time you plant an edible tree or an edible shrub, you are decreasing food insecurity, you are increasing food security. I don't see any reason why not. In fact, I think it would be a great idea too, plant a lot more edible trees, a lot more edible shrubs, wherever, in your parks, in your reserves, along street sides where we currently plant beautiful amenity trees like kowhais. Why not plant edibles to increase the food security? And when you're going to do that, well, okay, I'll go sideways a little bit here. A decade or so ago, we had an event, a couple of events, major events that shook everything up, literally, earthquakes. For a brief period there, a week or two or maybe a month, many people got a strong sense of what food insecurity feels like. And organisations like Rangiora Express, city councils, government rushed in to try and fill the gap. That awareness of what food insecurity feels like seems to have stayed around. And it has been rewarded by, well, the act of foraging has been rewarded, which seemed to have developed out of that food insecurity, by the presence now of large red zone areas, including here in Kaiapoi, that have lots of fruit trees in them. And you can now get foraging maps, you can now go on foraging workshops. There's even a guy in Christchurch who earns a living foraging and providing the foodie forages to restaurants. Foraging has become a big thing. Pākehās going out and foraging on what basically Pākehā foods. But Māori have been doing this for centuries. And I know in the natural environment strategy, you're thinking about mahinga kai. So here's an idea, Pākehā mahinga kai. All the trees that we Europeans brought here, all the shrubs that we Europeans brought here, that are edible. Why not provide some Pākehā mahinga kai, as well as the mahinga kai that Māori have traditionally been looking for? I can't see any reason why not. It gives you increased food security. which is an ongoing issue. So within that concept, if you plant a variety of species, you spread out the harvest time. Cherries are really early, before Christmas. Walnuts, feijoas, sort of happening now. And there's a whole lot of things in between, apples, pears, plums, whatever. And within that, within each species, again, you can plant a variety of different varieties that will come on stream and harvest at different times. We're not talking about orchards here who want everything coming on stream at once so they can get in, pick it, pack it and get it off. We're talking about spreading it out so people who are hungry at different times of the year can eat. So along the side of that, of course, you're providing food for bird life, which is another one of those amenity value things. Nectar producing plants, which are most of our European fruit trees, provide food for especially korimako and taho, bellbird and white-eye, wax-eye. These increase the amenity value of our environment. They're beautiful birds. Their bird song is beautiful. A few years ago, a big thing in the public awareness and markets and headlines rather was bee fodder, bee dieback and lack of food for bees. Every nectar producing plant you plant, and all fruit trees are nectar producing pretty much, provides bee fodder. So it's food for people, and it's food for bees, and it's food for birds. And birds give us increased amenity value. So amenity value. Practically every, every flowering fruit tree has beauty when it's flowering. Simple as that. I remember being a teenager in Palmerston North, walking through their botanical gardens, and there were some flowering pear trees. It was autumn, and there were edible pears on there. Well, why not plant those pears now for amenity value? And you get to eat them as well. Same with apples, same with cherries, same with all of them basically. Unfortunately, the prettiest perhaps of all, which is the quince, and not a lot of people seem to know what to do with the fruit. But they hang on the tree looking beautiful, bright yellow. And there are apples like Jack Hum, for instance, that have actually been planted for the amenity value because of the little bright red apples that sit on them through the winter. So yeah, fruit trees have amenity value as well. So that basically is it. That's your triple value for money. Your carbon sink, increased food security and amenity value. I think I've pretty much said what I needed to say here, although I probably could have put in some more details if I had my notes. But the main thing is that triple value for money you can get with planting edible fruit trees and shrubs. I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Gordon. Appreciate it, and it's a clear submission what you put forward as well. So thank you for that.
I didn't want to repeat what I put in the submission.
I've done a good job. Thank you. Questions? Any questions from colleagues? Councillor Cairns.
Thanks, Gordon, for your submission. In terms of numbers of people that potentially would forage, would you have an indication as to sort of numbers, like, say, even how many people would actually go through the Kaiapoi food forest on a yearly basis?
I couldn't actually give you exact numbers because we're not down the accounting, and yeah, people go through all time of the day, all times of the week. From some of the damage I'd see, I'd imagine there's teenagers there at night even. But I do know that there's significant enough interest in foraging, what I call Pākehā Mahinga Kai, that there are food foraging websites and there are food foraging tours and workshops. To me, that increases a significant number of people doing it. I know I was down at the food forest Monday and I saw for about an hour, and I saw Sunday morning, half a dozen people, 2 or 3 groups wandering through. Not a lot of fruit left for them to get into except a thing called medlars, which have beautiful flowers, but again, like quinces, people don't know what to do with them. I do.
Thank you. Thanks very much. There's no questions online. Thank you, Gordon, very much for your submission. we will be considering that in a couple of weeks, and we will let you know.
Thank you for your time and for listening, folks.
Thank you. Thank you. See, we have Sandra here. Are you ready to come up, Sandra? Thank you. Thanks, Sandra. Please join the table. We've got, if you could use the microphone, the other one's left on, if you wouldn't mind just turning it off. You can use whichever one you want. You may have heard before, it's up to 10 minutes. There'll be a bell at 8, and I'll be advised that when you get to 10, if you could leave some room for questions, and that would be great.
Cool.
Thank you, Sandra.
Well, morena e te whānau. Great to see your smiling faces all again on this crisp autumn day. New Zealand has the world's highest proportion of native species, flora and fauna at risk of extinction, according to the Ministry for the Environment, Our Land 2024 report. And Waimakariri has less than half of 1% of native vegetation, remaining over some 70% of this district. We are one of the most impoverished districts for native vegetation cover in New Zealand. These are not statistics that this district, this council and its residents should be proud of. So I'm urging the council to embrace the long-awaited Waimakariri Natural Environment Strategy, which prioritises our natural environment as key and critical infrastructure, and to support Option A funding to start work to turn the sad statistic around. While Option A is a start, it's pretty paltry really. $410,000 extra a year, an extra 16 cents on the weekly rate bill. Particularly as Waimakariri's customer satisfaction surveys consistently rate environmental protection as one of the priority areas residents want the council to lead on. So please endorse it. So not only can 2 more staff join the small but dedicated ecology team, and I declare an interest here, the Waimakariri Biodiversity Trust can create a multiplier effect in advising and supporting keen residents and voluntary community groups with biodiversity protection and enhancement on public land. Option A enables the trust and the and staff to have extra resource, and the trust can then deal with the multitude of inquiries coming to it. And as other speakers have said, there's the if you're looking to save rates, even though this is a small increase, empowering and advising your community to take charge in this natural environment space is just good economics right through the whole district. And please also continue to develop Lineside Road. It needs a better name than that too. For the into the flood retention basin it is naturally trying to be, plus create a fabulous wetland nature park, enhancing conservation, cultural and recreational opportunities for both residents and visitors. As you all know, and I make a bit of a meal of it in my main submission, the Lineside Road block is key to preventing the massive amount of sediment which flows all the time into the lower Kaiapoi River, making it still, after decades and decades of, well, acknowledgement, the most polluted stretch of water in North Canterbury, if not Canterbury. And I just want to ask you to write down, with capital letters, names. Signage and the naming of our rivers, streams, springs and wetlands. We don't do it here, and it's been raised before and it does not happen. So do we all know that the Northbrook stream springs rise on the Oxford Road frontage? right on the main road. So do you know where it is? It could benefit by a sign. Do we know that the Kaikanui stream is running under state highway at the southern entrance of Kaiapoi? The chair of the Kaiapoi community, Tuahia community, thought that was an old drain. That is in fact a significant historical and cultural stream that it does not have a sign. So, and nor does the South Brook. Runs under South Brook Road from Mitre 10 across the Pick and Save. Doesn't have a sign at all, doesn't have a name anywhere on its length. And what's more, it's got that filthy old rusty balustrade on the eastern side, which prevents seeing the stream. So these are key features, and I could run on about all the streams and rivers and natural landscape features that deserve their name in a sign and deserve to be named. It also, I'll mention, because it's been mentioned before and it's been mentioned directly to staff, the Sefton Saltwater Creek catchment group is monitoring the half a dozen tributaries that flow from the hills into the Saltwater Creek estuary. Nowhere are there any names and signposts for these. And the point being, people don't value what they can't identify or know about. And the way to do this, is help this process along, is to signpost their names, and if they don't have a name, involve the community in naming them. And if Jared and Kelly tell us that they don't have the budget for a sign, then there is a Keen school nearby where students would not only love to create a sign, but an information board as well. So the involving the community, if the budget is not there, which I've been told for years, a project design doesn't have this sort of budget, I mean, that in itself needs re-examination. But this is a way to involve your community in identifying and celebrating our natural features. I'll hop along to Skew Bridge. I would like to see the separation of Skew Bridge replacement from the proposed Eastern Link diversion. Skew Bridge, as a driver who uses it every other day, is absolutely urgent public health and safety issue, and everyone who travels that western route from Rangiora Way down through Kaiapoi into Christchurch will tell you that. So I think separating those two projects would enable Skew Bridge to, proceed with urgency. And I'll move on to finding utter disappointment yet again that the council has flipped the very much overdue land drainage rating review to 25-26. And yet you're still proposing to hike the district-wide drainage rate to fund the proposed Mandeville Resurgence channel. You're putting more money into that through the district-wide drainage rate, which has grown in the 10 years that it's since it was first levied. Oh, is that how many?
You're at 8 minutes.
Right, speak quickly. It's an area-specific project, should be paid for through area-specific rates and not buried in the general rate. I'm paying $25 a week for district-wide rate and I get no service. I'm up for another $80 to help out Mandeville, which is that Resurgence Channel is 20 kilometres away from my place. I get no service, I get no benefit. So I'm saying we have as you know, a terribly convoluted merry mixture of rating systems needs to be addressed. And I'm also a fan for extending that to the water charging systems that are carryovers from amalgamation. Water meters urgently need to be put in, conservation purposes, leak detection, better use of our precious water resources. it's a question of equity and fairness and long, long overdue. So I encourage you to advance consideration of those, in spite of the uncertainty that may still remain over 2 or 3 waters. That's pretty much me. The rest is covered in my main submission. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you all, and I welcome any questions you might have.
Thanks, Sandra. Opportunity for maybe a question or two. Councillor Fulton.
Thanks, Sandra. Lineside Road. What's your first big step if you had the levers to pull? Would it be drainage? Would it be a stormwater works around there? Tell us just briefly.
Well, I mean, I understand that there's money through our Arahati Te Awa budget, which I'm quite supportive of being used for this project, to actually get the expertise and to map the drainage lines underground. So you see where, in fact, you should be enhancing the stormwater containment and treatment is absolutely essential. And I know that and my dear departed mate Mike Blackwell, and Sarah, his wife, told me this, that he actually shed a tear when this council bought that land, because it is so significant. And if you want to see the damage that is happening, go across the road from Lineside, you know the boys' drain, just stand there and see the hundreds of tonnes of sediment that are flowing with the tidal cycle, not much worse when it rains, but with the tidal cycle, and go across to where the tide gate is into the upper Kaiapoi and see the discoloration all the time. So my priority would be sort that as a massive stormwater basin, and planting, and it goes with that. But that to me is what that block is trying to be, and that's what in fact it should be the priority to do, with public access and public involvement. I mean, it's a fabulous project for the community to be involved in, but the council needs to do that. That would be my view.
Thanks, Sandra.
Anybody else?
Appreciate your submission, clear points that you've made, so appreciate that.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
So make it happen, please, this time.
All right. If we have Mr. Neil Price, he's not here yet. No. So I think I see Spokes Canterbury here. Is that correct? Are you ready to go now? Okay. Please come forward. Thank you. Is it Anne? Is it?
Yes, it is.
Thanks, Anne. So thank you for coming. You might have heard before, up to 10 minutes. There'll be a bell at 8, and I'll let you know when you get to 10. If you could leave some room for some questions within that time, that would be great. So thank you, and welcome to our council.
Kia ora koutou, ko Anne Scott tauku ingoa. So I'm here speaking on behalf of Spokes Canterbury, which is a cycle advocacy group, and we have members from all over the Canterbury districts. So I wanted to talk mostly about cycling. The waimakariri has made some really good progress on cycling infrastructure, both commuting and recreational. The Waimakariri District Walking and Cycling Network Plan is a good vision, and it's got some pragmatic actions in it which have been slowly achieved. And because of that, there's been a noticeable increase in cyclists around the district, particularly recreational cyclists. And you see the cafes are full of cyclists coming in now from Christchurch, both in down the Passchendaele track and down some of the other tracks that we have. And there is support from the Waimakariri residents for improving opportunities for walking, cycling and public transport, while making it easier for those who want to drive, and making rural roads safer for those who wish to cycle and walk as well. Just talking about recreational cycling in the natural environment, There's some really good things in the plan, including the wetlands developments that you're thinking of doing, and all of these developments of the natural environment make it pleasant places to cycle, and that provides a lot of health and well-being benefits. I'd like you to continue to develop the shared tracks that you have in various places, but think about accessibility to a wide variety of cyclists. So, for instance, you can bike down the Ashley River, you can come up to get onto the track that comes into town, but there's a piece of metal in the way. So you've got something that you have to go right round like this if you're a cyclist. You can't get a cargo bike with a child through there. You can't get a trike through there. You can't get other mobility devices through there. So just think about the beginnings and ends of these trips and how you can extend it to a wider range of people. Well signposted. There is some very good signposting in Kaiapoi, for instance, for the major cycleways that you've got. But actually, if you're doing recreational tracks, the signposting's not quite as good. So if you bike down the Ashley River, for instance, you don't know how far you've gone. If you get closer to Rangiora, there are tracks going off in all directions, and there's no distinction about which one is actually the right way to go. And if you're cycling with a child, having milestones is actually quite important, because you can say, well, you know, you've got 3K to go to the ice cream. And that really does help to, you know, increase the amount of cycling that you're actually getting. You can also get lost cycling down the paths that go, the Pegasus Trail, for instance. You can end up in a place and you can't find the next part of the track because they're not quite continuous. Please provide bike parking in various places, and toilets are also important when you're doing recreational cycling. Well, they're important for all sorts of things, but a bike park outside the toilet is actually quite a useful thing. And I support the long-term plan, which was talking about 25 kilometres of new recreational trails per year. But the main thing that Spokes is interested in is everyday cycling. It's the cycling that you do to the school, the cycling that you do to the shops, the libraries, all those little destinations. And it's also commuter cycling to work. And what we'd like to see is you accelerate the implementation of the Waimakariri District Walking and Cycling Network Plan and prioritise those active transport journeys. You should also be continuing to connect towns with well-designed cycling infrastructure, and there are some good connections now, but they kind of end. We still need that connection in Rangiora from the Passchendaele track into town, where it's a nice, safe way of getting through. Particularly as I often see cyclists who get to the end of that track and then they go down the main road with all the cars instead of nicking in one block, and in actual fact there's a really nice sort of wiggle woggle through to King Street, for instance. Providing safer crossings for cyclists across the really busy roads is important. Now, when the Wakakatahi was going to upgrade the roads through from Woodend through to the end of, just the beginning of the end, we get into Kaiapoi, so I've forgotten the roads' names. That had some really good safety features in it. Including it had crossings, for instance, at Woodend Road. We also need something at North Kaiapoi, Ravensdale Pegasus, Waikuku. These are places where it's really hard to get across the road for pedestrians and cyclists. Just putting that safety, little bit of extra safety in would make a big difference. And continue to implement safer speeds. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about reducing speeds, because reducing speeds is the cheapest, most effective way to reduce deaths and serious injuries on our roads. And it actually reduces stress for drivers as well when the speeds are sensible speeds that people need to go. They don't feel pressured into going faster than people feel comfortable with. And it also includes mode shift. I've got a little diagram on the printout that you might have. And one of the things is that variable speed intersections, for instance, can reduce deaths and serious injuries by 51%. That's huge. And you should be thinking about some of these intersections in terms of what you should be doing locally in terms of reducing the risk in some of the intersections. Slower speed zones, and particularly in urban areas, are important as well. If a child gets hit at 30k, they've got an 80% chance of survival. If the child gets hit at 50k, they have a 20% chance of survival. That's huge. So reducing speeds makes a big difference, and it's cheaper. We're living in a time of challenges and opportunities. It's difficult for councils when the co-funding of active transport is in doubt, and we're waiting to see what the new GPS on transport will come up with, but it's kind of sounding pretty dire. It's certainly easier for councillors to approve good infrastructure, good cycling infrastructure when the government's paying 51%. But I really urge you to actually think about this and continue with your current budgets and keep spending. The Wood End bypass may not include cycling infrastructure. The current government says walking or cycling should only take place where there is a clear benefit for increasing economic growth or a clear benefit for improving safety, and demonstrating volumes of pedestrians and cyclists already exist. Now, there is a good argument that there are huge benefits to cycling. There are health and physical and mental benefits, and Dr. David Tripp, who's a Wellington specialist in chronic diseases, he's saying that cycling can reduce heart disease by 46%, cancer by 45%, and he didn't give a figure for diabetes, but he's also into that as well, because he's a diabetes doctor. So there are really big health benefits. There are safety benefits on reducing risk and deaths and serious injury by putting protected cycleways in. There are congestion benefits in park and ride and public transport. And so what I want to urge you to do is look at cycling and do what's best for current and future generations of waimakariri. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. I appreciate that. Councillor Cairns for the question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Anne, for your submission. Thank you for mentioning about the signage. I've heard also issues about signage. So in terms of mapping, Visit Waimakariri have some very good maps, but do the cyclists actually use those maps for tracking their location in terms of getting around? Would they like physical maps, or would you like online maps, or would you not find maps useful at all?
So when I'm cycling around, I actually do have the physical map because I'm of that age. I can use it on my phone. I actually use Google more, like, where am I kind of thing, and try to locate myself. But I find that actually signage on the track is actually the most important of all. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you, Anne. We appreciate the time you've taken for your submission.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have heard Neil Price might be joining us owing to a family matter, so apparently they've put an apology through to staff on that. So just Arts Waimakariri is, sorry, is it just yourself, or is Arisha joining you?
No, she sends her apologies.
Okay, if you're ready to go, that would be great.
Thank you.
So up to 10 minutes, there'll be a ballot at 8 to let you know, and if you could leave a bit of room for questions, that would be appreciated.
No problem.
Welcome and thank you.
Thank you. Kia ora, koutou, ko Louise Johns toko ingoa. I am representing Arts Waimakariri, which includes the 3 galleries, Art on the Quay, Chamber Gallery Rangiora, and Oxford Gallery Toi o Waimakariri. Submission is for continued support. In mind with the long-term plan. We wish to extend a big thank you to the Council for supporting our visibility via the newspaper ads and the community pages, and the electronic boards, which align us with gravitas and compelling credibility to our exhibition programs and our marketing. We value the Council's expertise in supporting and strengthening our brand voice as well. We look forward to our galleries to continue to deliver consistent, vibrant arts that represent the uniqueness of waimakariri with meaningful community engagement. Art in the Key, Chamber Gallery Rangiora and Oxford Gallery Toi o Waimakariri are aligned also with the soon-to-be launched arts strategy. And all three galleries are positioned to help deliver the strategy's community outcomes. So we wanted just to keep that succinct and brief. Any questions?
Thank you. Is there any questions of colleagues? Thank you.
Super.
Clear
Thanks very
submission.
much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers. And are you coming to the launch on Friday?
You bet.
Right, great. Excellent. Okay, Fiona, I think you're here. Are you ready to go? Thank you. Excellent. If you need a bit more time, no trouble.
I mean, feel free to stand up and have a shake.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my... Does it?
We're good to go if you are. So just
Am I live? I'm
so
live.
up to, you'll have heard before up to 10 minutes ballot age. So thank you.
Okay. Tēnā koutou, ko Fiona Bennett's tōku ingoa. I live in the northwest part of Christchurch, but I frequently cycle or catch the bus out to Kaiapoi, Rangiora, Woodend and beyond. I tōtoko Anne Scott's submission from Spokes Canterbury and agree with pretty much everything she said, so let's take that as a starting point for my submission now. So yeah, please continue to build safe cycling and walking infrastructure across the district and connecting into neighbouring districts such as CCC, Wakakotahi, Selwyn, Hurunui, beyond. We need a safe connected network across the country, and it starts with every council doing their part. Please also build both sealed and unsealed routes. So the sealed ones are great for me. I'm on a skinny little tyre. If I want to bike 100 k's, I'm not going to be on this size tyre. I'm going to be on this size tyre. So I need sealed routes between Kaiapoi and Woodend, for example. I don't know what's happening with the Wakakotahi project. It's probably been pulled, but yes, I'd love to have connected, safe routes, and so would all the school children who live in Woodend and go to Kaiapoi High School. It's great that there's other connections, but that critical one that's missing, you need a mountain bike to go the long way around to get between Woodend and Kaiapoi at the moment. It's not ideal, it takes twice as long. And biking on the highway is no fun, trust me. Please also talk with ECAN about extending the bus network. I think I put in my submission, and I definitely spoke to ECAN about this earlier, is connecting all the smaller hubs, which are also growing rapidly, such as Mandeville and Ahoka and those kind of places, into Kaiapoi or Rangiora, and hubbing off Rangiora out to like Amberley and Oxford and Cust, and all these places that have no service at all from the bus network. So people have no choice but to drive, and that's not the future. We have to get out of cars. I'm sorry, but it's the future. We have to act on climate. We're not so small that we're insignificant. So everyone needs to have the choice, especially school children need to have the choice, and I really don't want 16-year-olds driving to school. And that's as far as I got in the written part. Going back to the speed limit thing that Anne mentioned, I'd love that all new subdivisions, of which there are many planned, to have a default speed limit of 30 or 40 kilometres an hour, unless there's a school, in which case it should be lower. But like just starting it with a blank 40k limit at most is a great start, because well, you know, Wakakotahi is not going to help you in this department, but it's so much safer for people walking, cycling, scootering, catching the bus if it's just slower. And trust me, I've been hit by a car going 50 and I'm very lucky to be alive. So please, slow the speed limits. Thank you, and happy to take questions.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission, Fiona. Any questions, colleagues? Councillor Cairns?
Thank you, Fiona, for your submission. I'm going to ask the same question that I asked Van. In terms of your experience with the cycle trails, do you find signage better? Or in terms of discovering new trails, do you use the maps that are currently available, or would you like us to improve those maps?
Is it still live? Yeah. So I use the PDF copy that is downloaded off the internet. And I don't know of any other ones available. Are there paper ones available? Okay, so I need to stop in and pick those up. Are they downstairs? No.
They would be downstairs.
Okay.
And also the ISO.
Yeah, so I wasn't aware that they were available. So I'm not sure of other cyclists. I'm kind of more in the road brigade rather than the e-bike brigade. But yeah, so I need to pick up some of those. I use the PDF, but it's like on a side. And then I'm like constantly like trying to turn it. So it doesn't work so well. And I'm not one of these up with technology people that has everything on like a head unit on my bike. I'm old school, and unlike my age, I'm old school, and I just kind of memorise where I'm going. But then when I'm out there, like Anne said, I'm out there, I'm like, oh shoot, is it this turn off or the next one? And the signage is just not there, or the signage has been turned by the wind or by some vagrant, and it's been turned the wrong direction. I have snap sense of when someone, something, somehow things have turned the wrong way around. But it doesn't. Yeah, there needs to be some better infrastructure.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, thank you, Fiona.
Thank you very much.
Submission points are very clear. Appreciate your time. Thank
Cheers.
you. Is Jeanette Hinton here yet? KPA hasn't arrived, so we might just have a brief adjournment, and we'll just, if you just hang around as we wait for Jeanette. She's due at 10:50, so maybe if you want to have a coffee, maybe take a coffee break would be good. If you're back here, so just a quarter of an hour, so 10:45. Thank you. We'll just adjourn at the present time. everyone. We'll get back into our meeting. Is Jeanette Hinton? Is Jeanette here? Have we seen Jeanette? So we've got Kaiapoi promotion.
Jeanette's out there, I think.
Is she? Can we just... Oh, right. Cool. Hi, Jeanette. Just have a seat there. Sorry, what's the problem, Martin? You've got a... Did we know that you were bringing those with you? Helene. Okay, so we, anyway, if someone's going to talk to, yeah, okay. All right. Welcome, Jeanette, to our meeting. It got up to 10 minutes, and there'll be about at 8 to let you know. If you could leave some room for some questions, that would be appreciated.
Okay, it's
Thank
fine.
you.
Good morning, everyone. I'd just like to speak to the comments that I've emailed through on the long-term plan, which you probably have seen, have got with you in front of you, but I really feel that, you know, the council needs to look at spending very seriously in this economic time that we find ourselves in. I think the needs and the wants need to be really looked at seriously. Like, there is people out there in our community that are hurting so badly, and they're not having, you know, ideas of having they haven't got ideas of building buildings. They're actually looking at how they can get through their week with all the increase in costs. And these are your ratepayers, and this is their money that you guys are looking at spending. And, you know, I've lived out here in North Canterbury for only 12 years. I'm a refugee from the city after having lost my house in the earthquakes, and I love living out here. I think it's a great space, and you know, I was at this library. I was at an information day when they were talking last year about green spaces and things, and you know, I said to the lady there behind the desk, you know, we're absolutely spoilt for choice out here for green spaces. You know, you've got wetlands, you've got parks, you've got the beach, and yet she turned and said to me, well, no, that's why we're here, because per capita the mandates tell us that we aren't doing so well. And I just really can't see all that. And I think that wherever I've been to, there's never been crowds of people, all that kind of thing. So I think a lot of the spending really needs to be looked at, because needs versus wants, but of course my needs and your needs are probably completely different. So, you know, that's where it's very, you know, it's hard to understand. But I use the library. I find it fine. I use both libraries, the one in Rangiora. I personally don't see that we need to have a new building, or if it seriously needs a roof leak or something like that, I would say do your repairs. I think the public would be furious if they saw their money being spent into new buildings when they themselves are suffering out there in the community. And you know, I use the swimming pools, and I feel like I pay twice. I pay in my rates, I pay at the door when I go in for a swim. Yeah, we really struck twice with fees and prices and things. And I've got a daughter in Huranui, you know, and in there, when their rates come through, they get a voucher to go to Hamner Spring Pools, you know. So perhaps the council could think of doing something for families that, you know, they could have a voucher for something that, you know, it's an incentive to use these spaces. I won't go on too much because you've got all my stuff there about what I said, but I know I asked for a zero rates increase, and the reason I asked for that is that I'm actually a recent retiree, and I'm now living on a pension, and a few of you here might even know that if you only had the pension to live on, it wouldn't be a very fantastic lifestyle, but some of our community are actually living that lifestyle, and I really feel for them, and I know that the newspaper article I was reading this week back in March said that the council has the lowest rate rise in the area, but they failed to say that we pay the highest rates in the area. So, you know, when you know that, we paid higher rates than the city. So I've got some figures here that I've gone and got, sort of thinking about the budgeting and about being on a fixed income, which many of our members are, and just taking the average rates for someone in, say, the Rivertown Villas just down the road. And so those people there, if they're facing this 8.9% increase in the rates that you're projecting, they're going to have an extra $10 a fortnight taken out of their pension or their benefit, whatever those people are on, and most of them are over 60, so they're probably most of them on a benefit or a pension, and that equates to $150 a payday out of their pension, and that's before they even have to think about food, insurances, power, etc. You know, that's a huge bulk of money coming out of their pension. And you know, you might say that, well, you know, where are they? They haven't written the form out. They haven't sort of spoken up, or they're not here today or tomorrow, whenever your hearings are. But you know, we don't know why those people aren't here. You know, there's a reason for that. They might be out. But some of them might still have jobs so that they can pay all these fees and these bills and things that are happening. You know, and I think that that you know it's really. It really has to come down to thinking about everyone in the community, because we've got families hurting, we've got people that have lost jobs, we've got people that have lost their businesses, you know, and yeah, it's tough out there. It's really, really tough. So that's what I really want to you know, to hone in on is our people out there in the community. And I've spoken to lots of them, and I was only speaking to someone yesterday, and she said to me, "Oh, what do you mean by an 8.9 increase in rates? I thought there was not going to be an increase." You know, some people just don't know what's going on out there, for whatever reason. So, yeah, I speak today on behalf of many of those people, and I don't know why they haven't completed the form or come here and spoken to you guys today. But on their behalf, and some of the people of my friends that they're in the same situation as myself, you know, I don't think that you can assume that they are happy. You can use figures any way you like, and just because they haven't turned up today, don't assume that they are happy, because I really don't think a lot of them are. And you know, and I just think that you've just got to try and consider all those people. And yeah, and I just ask that you do that. And I just want to speak on behalf of them. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeanette. Appreciate your submission and the thoughtfulness of it. We appreciate what you've said. Questions? I've got Councillor Williams followed by Councillor Blackie.
Yeah, thank you for your submission. In your point, you're saying you weren't given options to your liking. Are you sort of thinking that the council should have had more different type of options for the questions they've given there, or were they misleading? Or
no, I don't think they're misleading. I just found them, when I picked up that form, I just felt that I would have rather had my opinions more so than trying to choose something that had been put down there. I didn't read the whole plan, because I mean it was hundreds of pages, but I didn't have a lot of figures to work with either, because I do agree that, I mean, it's something I didn't say, is I do agree with the roading and the issues at South down Rangiora, and something really needs to be done about that. But there weren't, I didn't find amounts of money that to be put to each of the options. So I couldn't really fathom which one I wanted. But I do agree that something has to be done. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Blackie.
Yeah, thanks, Jeanette. You talked about paying twice for the pool. Obviously, you know that the ratepayer subsidises the running of the pool so a lot. So, are you advocating user pays for something like a pool? If you don't want to, it to pay twice.
Yeah, I am really, because also in in your proposals was the cricket oval. You know, well, you won't see me at the cricket oval. And a lot of young families are saying that out there, that, you know, they're going to the main power stadium, for example, they're paying for it in their rates, they're paying for it at the door. It just gets, and then the rate increase on top of that. So when you do an increase in your rates, you're taking more disposable income out of their money, out of their weekly wages, aren't you? So yeah, I would say user pays.
Thank you. Councillor Cairns.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Jeanette, for taking the time to do the submission. Would you agree to maybe having a two-tiered system in terms of fees, one for the current ratepayers and one for somebody who comes from outside the district? Would you agree to that sort of system?
Yeah, I
and
would.
what sort of increase would the outsiders pay over what the ratepayers would pay?
Oh, I wouldn't. I haven't got the figures. I don't know what it would cost to, say, run the pool or whatever. I don't know.
But they should pay higher.
But I think, there's no reason why they couldn't.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. No further questions? Thanks, Jeanette, for your time.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you. All right, so is KPA...
Decided not to stay because he had a presentation that he wanted to give, but he only brought along today, so he's not going to speak on behalf of himself or KPA.
So
he's going to email me the presentation.
So we complete with sound. All right. All right. Well, there we are. So just on that, Helene is he is going to email that through for us to have a look at. Right. So we'll make sure.
Because he's out of town tomorrow and Friday, so he couldn't attend those days. So he will email the.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Thanks, Helene. All right. Well, at this point, we stand adjourned. I believe there is to be some light catering before we go to Oxford. What time's that? Okay, so that's there for members before we head up. Otherwise, we'll see you in Oxford. I think was it 2:30 start up in Oxford this afternoon. Okay?